What's up, HyperFast Nation? On this episode of the show, we have a repeat guest. He was on episode 181, so make sure you go back and watch that. Today, he's back on teaching us about how to lead a real estate team through a market shift. Welcome back to the show, Michael Gillies. What's up, Michael? Welcome to the show.
How you doing?
Good to have you back on, and good to have you here, by the way. We should say we're in our office in Arlington, Virginia, doing a mastermind with top-level real estate agents from all over the country. What are some of your biggest takeaways so far from the mastermind we've been putting on today?
So the new format has been awesome. So it has been that real mastermind style where we put, it must have been 30 different things on the whiteboard that all these different teams needed to work on, and then we're just sort of workshopping all of them. And so the biggest thing for me right now is making this shift from being heavily in production to spending a lot more time coaching my team. And so some of that is because of the market, some of that is just because it's where our team needs to go, but talking to people that have done it and figuring out what it's going to take is kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah, it's amazing when you get around other high-producing agents and people from all over the country and can learn, and that really is one of the benefits of the HyperFast Agent Mastermind and the program that we do here. You get to learn from Carrie and myself, but you also get to learn from agents all over the country, see what's working in their market, what their challenges are, and bring that back to your market. So if you want to learn more about that, you can go to hyperfastagent.com, and you can check out our programs, our events there. Again, that is hyperfastagent.com. So you brought up an interesting point, I think, about working on coaching your agents versus production. I've seen a lot of smaller teams now, anyway, where the leader, because of the market shift, because of less transaction, the leader, which he or she are really diving back more into production now in some cases. Is that the case with you, or are you still working on getting the agents more productive?
No. So I've been in production pretty heavily, and we had a sales manager and decided to make a change there just because it didn't seem like it wasn't working for what the agents needed. And just in the couple of weeks since then, where I've been kind of pushed back into that role, talking to our agents more, looking at what it's going to take to get them productive, it's just kind of this revelation that what they need is more coaching. A lot of it's skills, right?
Right.
We've been so busy in the last couple of years that we lost some of that. Our skills were focused on, there's 14 offers. How do we write an offer that's going to win, right? But we lost some of those skills where we really had to do a good job converting, talk to buyers about why it makes sense to buy. And so we're kind of trying to shift my focus now away from some production. We've got some amazing agents on our team that will benefit from me not doing that production. It means that they can take it on, and then it means I'll have a lot more time to spend working with them, trying to figure through what are their challenges, what are they converting well on, what are they not converting well on, and some of them are here this week, which is awesome. So they're picking up a lot.
Yeah, a lot of good nuggets there. I think agents that are team leads that are jumping back into production or ramping it up more, that could obviously help them do well during this shift. And that is tempting. I get it, and it's also a little short-term thinking, right? Because you do need a path to be profitable without just trading time for money. Multiple ways to get there. So that would just be like my cautionary tale to those agents that are diving back in, doing more. If you need to do that for short-term sake, that's fine, but look at it as now you have multiple jobs and a side hustle, and you still have to train the team, build other sources of income. So, if you need to do it short term, great, but work on multiple fronts for a few months to kind of pull yourself through.
So I think you're gonna hear a lot where people are saying that a shift in the market is an opportunity, but I think the problem is that a lot of team leaders are gonna dive so far back into production because they're afraid. Maybe their numbers have come down. Maybe they're looking at their expenses and they're trying to figure out, how do I cover more of this? But the opportunity is if you actually do something different. If you make a push, if you either add to your marketing or maintain it when everybody else is dropping it off, and then if in my case I want to focus on getting our agents really, really super productive right now, then we're going to come out of it on the other side with more market share. And a lot of teams, especially newer teams that haven't experienced much of a shift yet, I think we'll hear that there's a lot of opportunity, but I don't know if it's actually going to sink in.
Right.
Because if you were in real estate back before the crash, so I got laid off twice during that time. I worked for 2 wholesale mortgage lenders. Got laid off twice and made the smart decision for some reason to get into real estate right in the middle of the crash. And everybody told me I was crazy, and I came to work with my parents, which is kind of a cool thing. And as everybody else was pulling back, we pushed hard on branding. We added new lead sources. We pushed into all that stuff. And I think it was in 2008 we increased by like 30 or 40% when everything else was crashing. 2008 or 2009. So
how did you do that?
It was
because that crash, by the way, was nothing like what's going on now. It was like way worse, right? They made movies about it.
Yeah.
This, what we've seen so far is more of like a pause. There's just like less deals out there, but really it's back to a normal level. Like 21, it was up 20%. Now we're down 20%, so we're back to baseline level. How in 08, when you did see prices, deals, all that falling, foreclosures, how did you go up 30, 40%?
It was, so we actually increased our marketing and added to our team when most people, there's a ton of people getting out of the business.
Right.
And so we pushed really hard on targeted branding in some very specific areas. A lot of it was higher price point neighborhoods, just because with price points dropped in some of these neighborhoods 40+%. But if we wanted to keep some kind of price point up, we had to still target the higher end. So we put a lot into that, and we're still benefiting from that now. We're doing some different things with those neighborhoods, but but it was everything from direct mail to adding online sources, which is a whole different ballgame. Whatever it is, 14 years later. But when everybody else was pulling back, we kind of turned into the skid and just said, look, I guess we could get screwed if we put all this money out there and then it doesn't happen. But as everybody else was pulling back, the name that people kept seeing was us.
Love it. Well, the other thing you talked on was improving your sales skills. The last couple of years, agents, a lot of them could get by just being an order taker, right? Write an offer, hope that gets accepted. List the house, it's gone. 10 offers.
Yeah.
Now you need more sales skills, right? You have to really walk through the financing with buyers and different rate buy down programs, or ARM versus fixed rate, right? Like no one was having the debate of ARM versus fixed when the fixed rates were in the 2s or 3s. So you need to have more financial skills, more analytical skills, more sales skills, and you got to be realistic about setting prices with sellers and learn how to stay in communication with them for several weeks or months as their house sells. What are you doing to improve the sales skills and abilities of your agents?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that there are some agents that have been really successful over the last couple of years that probably won't be in the business, at some point in 2023, because, they got pretty good at taking some of these leads and, finding a way to win an offer, but there wasn't a whole lot of actual sales process going on. So right now, what we're hearing more than anything is well, rates are too high. I want to wait for them to come down. Well, what if the market crashes? And so we put together this workshop with our team, and we said, okay, let's talk about all these different fears that buyers have, and let's figure out what are the actual numbers that come around those things. And the idea was for it just to be a brainstorming session, and it turned into this document set of a scripting document for each one of those things, like a leave behind a handout that we can give them, and then an actual worksheet. And the whole idea there was to say, okay, let's assume that the market dips by X%, right? What actually happens over the course of the time that you plan to own the house? And once you actually do those numbers, it's not nearly as scary as it seems. But what's the typical agent's answer to that right now? Well, yeah, rates are high, but it'll get better, right? Which is fine, and it's true, and rates will probably come down, and a buyer can refinance, but that doesn't help them with the mindset.
Right.
If you've got a buyer that really wants to buy but can't figure through, getting over the fear of what might happen, then they're not going to do anything, right? If they're scared or if they don't know what numbers actually look like, then they're just going to wait on the sidelines. And ultimately, for most buyers, that's not a good thing. And so, we put together these few documents, and the scripting one, is critical. You figure out, okay, why do you want to move and what's your timeline? And if you know what their why is, like let's say, we really need to downsize because, my husband can barely make it up the stairs, right? Then what's more important? Is it well, what's the market going to do over the next 12 months, or is it getting your family into a house that you can actually
right?
Right. So once you know the why and then you know the timeline, most buyers aren't looking at a 1 or a 2 year timeline, right? They might be looking at 3 or 4 years if they're military. A lot of people will say, well, my kids graduate high school in 10 years, so this is like a 10-year plan for us. And then you just work through the numbers with them. You take a half an hour, 20 minutes, go through and say, hey, look, this is what the numbers look like for your situation with, the price point that you want to be at and what you plan to put down. And you put real numbers around their fears, and then in most cases, the fears go away.
Yeah, I think those are conversations that agents really haven't had to have for a long time. So, you have to practice that with your team, and I think having the worksheet is a great idea, because for most people, if you zoom out 5, 7, 10 years, you're gonna be fine, probably.
Yeah. The numbers aren't
1 year, maybe not. I don't know, but 10 years.
Yeah. Well, and that's just it. Unless something unexpected happens, most buyers aren't going to be in a house 1 year, right? So it is true. Yeah, you look at it. If rates come down to the point where it makes sense, you refinance out of it, and then you've still got the house, all the benefits of it. You've accelerated your amortization. You're not still renting. There's so many benefits to it when you actually just put them down on paper.
If rates come down too, this is the other thing people don't realize. If rates coming down probably pushes home prices up.
Yeah.
So if you're sitting on the sidelines and whatever price you could buy a home for today at 7%, if the rates came down to 5%, you might lose some of that purchasing power and the price going back up. I don't know where that balance is, but it is a consideration. Whereas if you had just bought at 7 and it went down to 5, you can refi and have increased equity, probably. Like, we don't know, but I think you made a good point. Like, if you have to buy because of your life circumstances, you're probably gonna be okay. If you don't have to, then it's a different circumstance, different analysis.
I mean, it is, but at the same time, if you're not happy where you are, and the whole idea is, if you're saying, well, let's just wait it out, then well, how long do you wait? How long do you stay kind of miserable where you are, or at least unhappy where you are? And then I don't know if I was talking to you last night or somebody else, but trying to actually find the bottom is pretty much impossible.
Yeah.
Right? Because if let's say, you know, you're following it down and it kind of comes here, and then you realize, you know, that it's the bottom. You're not going to realize at the bottom.
No.
You're going to realize it 4, 5, 6 months later when prices have already gone back up, and then you've waited and you've stayed where you are, and you've whatever your situation is, and you're still.
It's probably hard to buy at 6 o'clock, but I have heard from some really smart people that they would rather buy at 7 o'clock than 5 o'clock. If that makes, if you look at the market as like a clock.
Yeah.
So
meaning on the early side of it.
They'd rather buy at 7 after it's hit the bottom than at 5,
Okay.
and not knowing that they're, not knowing if they actually bought at 5 versus like 3 or 4.
I guess that.
Right. So they're waiting for it to happen, but it is, you're never gonna catch it exactly, and you could get burnt and missed out, right?
If you're super savvy and you're watching close enough to figure out where 6 o'clock is, that you can hit 7 o'clock, then and you can do it. You don't have to move. There's not something really pushing you. Then that makes sense. But for most people, they're looking because they've got to move.
Well, and to be fair, this was coming from someone who helps run a family office with a few $100 million, so they're doing it strictly from investment point of view, not from the point of view of I need a house to live in. I might as well get somewhere that I really like and will love for the next 5, 7, 10 years, whatever. And I do think, speaking from a lot of experience on this, like actually having a place, a home that you like and are comfortable with, it's worth a lot of like peace of mind.
Yeah.
I think it helps you be more productive. Like we've been in this situation for the last 2 years where the house we're building has been delayed, and we're, I think by the time this podcast gets published, we'll actually be living in it, which is nice. But that's obviously caused a lot of time waste and peace of mind and productivity. So I do think having a place that you're going to be happy with for a number of years that's worth some peace and security. And like when you're living in it, it's not just an investment.
Well, and it seems like the financial side of things is what hangs people up.
Yeah.
They're uncertain about it. But there's a whole, quality of life, half of that equation that you've got to add in there, right? Yes, it's it's an investment and all that, but it's also where you live, where your kids live, where you come home to every day. And so, if you're putting off a purchase that you really need to make, if you're crammed into a place that's too small for your family, or if you can't go up and down stairs or whatever the case is, and you're holding off because of some of these fears, then as agents, we've got to be able to talk people through that.
Right.
Look at the numbers and help them understand that, hey, look, it probably makes sense for you to do this, and here's the financial implications of it, and it's not nearly as bad or scary as you think it is.
What do you think about this? This report just came out today. I was telling you before the podcast here. Dow Jones is up 1,000 points. I think that's its biggest jump since 2020. And the driving factor is the inflation numbers came out 7.7.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the prior month it was 8.2. So the market thinks that maybe inflation has peaked and is coming down, and maybe we'll get back to the level where the Fed tapers off or even pauses on these rate hikes.
Well, inflation's what's driven all of this. It wasn't a drop in demand. The demand was there until, what was it, May, when that first scary inflation report came out, where rates really started going up. Sometime around there.
It was earlier this year at some point. They've been kind of marching up, and then that seemed to accelerate and kind of hit an inflection point. Yeah, May, June. I don't remember when, but
and so if we do start to see that inflation number come down, then it means that everything that the Fed has done is finally starting to take effect, amongst other things, I guess. But that's where if buyers start to get a little bit of confidence back, if they start to see some of that, and especially if it starts to affect rates, that's where we're going to see this little dip that we've seen in prices start to go back in the other direction. So I really don't think that we're going to see this really long, protracted dip in prices because the demand's there, and we're still short on inventory.
Right.
Inventory is still pretty low, and then when you look at this on a national level, for new family starts, the new housing starts still are nowhere close to catching up, and so that demand's going to be there. It's just buyers kind of getting over this fear of where they're at right now.
Yeah. Well, we shall see. You know, we definitely don't have a crystal ball. How many people are on your team now? By the way, I don't think we touched on that.
So we've got about 10 agents.
Okay.
And 4 full-time staff, a couple part-time staff, and a few listing agents, and then a big group of buyer agents.
And just so people listening and viewing now, maybe they'll send you a referral. What areas are you covering?
We're just south of you, so we're in the Stafford and Fredericksburg area,
okay,
Virginia. So, kind of up and down 95, definitely south of DC, north of Richmond.
And you just made a big move with your team, right?
Yeah, for sure.
What's that about?
So we were with Remax. We owned a Remax franchise for a while that we then merged with another company, and after that merger, we really started looking at our numbers and opportunity, and in I think it was June 1st, we made the move over to EXP, which is super exciting. And there's 2 sides to it. It turned out just to be a no-brainer, just from a team standpoint. We were able to give our agents depending on their production, like a 7 to 11% raise, with doing nothing more than just making the move.
Wow.
And then from a team standpoint, even with we have a new office space that should be opening up in a couple of weeks, and so we're taking on new rent and some things like that. But even with that, we're about $100,000 less being paid to a broker, and that's including adding in that office rent. And so,
wow,
if we were looking at apples to apples, it's almost a $200,000 shift.
That's a lot of money.
and giving our agents a 10% raise. And so we're super excited about it. Our agents are really happy, and it was kind of a 2-piece thing for us. One, it's how do we figure out how to do what the agents want us to do, but then from a brokerage standpoint, it is about the money. When it comes down to it, if we can pay our guys more money, and we've got more resources to put into marketing, or to take as profit, however you want to look at that. It was a total no-brainer. When you look at not just paying $200,000 to a broker, but when the delta is $200,000, it's impossible to ignore. And I hate that I even waited as long as I did when I look back.
That's most people's biggest regret, from what I've learned, is that they didn't do it sooner. And there's the whole tech side of it, but I think the genius in it really is just the model. Like, you're eliminating everything from national down, and you're really creating a flat organization that can operate a lot cheaper, let the agents keep more money, and then, oh, by the way, it grows not through professional recruiters or signing bonuses or any of that. It grows by rewarding agents that help bring other agents to the company.
When you look at brokerages now, how much value do most brokerages actually offer? If you're talking, in the case of a team, if someone's paying $300,000 to a broker, are they getting $300,000 worth of value? There's no way, right? And then as an individual agent, are you getting $30,000 or $40,000 or $50,000 worth of value? Probably not, right? And in a model where if you're paying 15 or 20%, like a traditional brick and mortar type of program, 50 grand adds up really quick, right? Once you start.
Oh yeah.
Doesn't take long.
Yeah, and do that over 10 years, 50 grand a year, and like reinvest it with compounding. You're talking $1 million over a decade, and that's really just saving money on like moving your existing business, right? Like your cost of living, if you will, at the brokerage.
Yeah.
Like, let alone what you can do on building the recurring income through revenue share and bringing people on. And you can bring people on 23 different countries now, right? 50 different states, all that. Like, so if people want to learn more about joining at EXP, or whether they're a solo agent, franchise owner that is, maybe not going to renew, how should they find you?
Just, send me an email, michael@gilliesteam.com, or call me or text me. It's 540-699-0030. And there's some really cool stuff that we're rolling out here pretty soon, where we're going to have several different tiers, right? A salaried agent tier, which you don't see a lot in traditional real estate, a typical team real estate role, and then another tier where we're able to offer access to coaching, office space, all sorts of things locally. And then, of course, whether it's if it's not local, then we have access to national trainers. We have all of our own coaching stuff that we're able to push out there. So there's so much that we can do with it that we just couldn't do before.
Yeah, no, it's an amazing model. Let's wrap up with the HyperFast round. I think you've done it before on episode 181, but we'll see if your answers have changed.
All right.
What's your biggest piece of advice to a new real estate agent?
Yeah, you're going to have to work harder than you think to get your pipeline going, and you've got to treat it. Like a job. I don't necessarily like the word job, but you have to dedicate the time to it, because if you think that you're going to get your license and then just everyone you ever know is going to flock to you, it's not going to happen. And that's why, what's the number? Like 90% of agents.
Yeah, something like that. 87. Yeah, 5 years. 87% are gone. Yeah. Biggest mistake you see experienced agents make?
I think a lot of agents just get stagnant, and they don't make a push, and they don't try new things, right? They maybe they kind of made their bones in one neighborhood, and that's kind of where they work, and and they're unwilling to try digital marketing, or they're whatever the case is. There's always something new to figure out, and then the landscape's always changing. So if you just keep doing what you were doing 20 years ago, chances are somebody else is going to win.
Do you think you'll have a bigger year in 2022 or 2023?
2023.
All right. When you're not working on the business, what are you most likely doing?
If it's warm out in the summertime, we're probably on the river. If once we get into the wintertime, my son and I try to go skiing as much as we can. Not every weekend, but as many as we can.
All right. Where do you see yourself 10 years from now?
I want to be your neighbor in South Florida.
All right.
I'm definitely not leaving the real estate industry. I love real estate, but there's, especially with EXP, there's the opportunity to do things in different states, and so plan on having our team and building our team and giving people a lot more opportunity, and that's part of with backing out of production. I can give more opportunity and keep things growing.
All right. Well, thank you for being on the show. To all of our listeners and viewers, thank you for tuning in. Please share this episode with other real estate agents, people thinking about becoming agents. Leave us some feedback. Leave us a review, too, by the way. We love it when you guys leave us reviews on iTunes. We'll see you next time.